On February 4th, 2020, in Annapolis, Maryland, dozens of Kratom consumers, activists, advocates, business owners, family, and friends came together from all over the country to speak out against HB0283 at the House Judiciary Committee meeting, which would have made Kratom a Schedule I controlled substance. Ultimately, the Kratom advocates' efforts did pay off, and the bill did not go through. This is a recap of the day's events. Hey guys, Mike here. This was my first trip that I was able to actually get video because I had some equipment. And that's all thanks to Candid for sponsoring the show, and my brother-in-law and his fiance, Sam and Aubrey, for donating some mobile movie equipment, and then the anonymous contributor that helped get me there, but almost all the way there. I had to come out of pocket, but that was cool. It looks like a win. It looks like a win in Maryland, and they're going to be putting through the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, the KCPA. So, yeah, I got to meet some really great people and network with some business owners, and it seems like hopefully I'm going to be able to work with a couple or even get one on the show. So HB0283 was the House bill, and then SB0147 was the Senate bill, Senator Young. That one was, I believe, the week before, and they had already said they're going to be putting through the KCPA for the Senate. And then, actually, when Kerr started, he said that they're willing to amend that it would be a civil penalty, not a criminal penalty, only for those under 21. So I got there February 3rd and dropped my stuff at the hotel and went to go to the House office building. And I tried to talk to some of the delegates, but they weren't around. So I talked to receptionists and aides and gave them some cards. I didn't have anything printed out because I didn't really know if I was going to go talk to them or just kind of check it out and leave. So actually, when I was getting some B-roll, I came across Maryland Hemp Coalition meeting, and it was a meeting with all hemp business owners, and they had a couple of booths set outside, and they let me go in for a couple minutes, but I didn't record anything. There was a representative that was talking in front of there that said her constituents are complaining about a farm that the smell is really bad, that it was a farm that was growing vegetables and other stuff for so long, and then they started growing hemp for CBD, and now the smell is really bad. So she introduced some type of bill to control the smell. So I don't know what that was all about. So I walked around a little bit, tried to go talk to the delegates, but they were all gone until 8 o'clock. That was when they're in session, is 8 o'clock at night. So it does definitely look like a win that they're going to be doing the KCPA for both. And it was kind of like disheartening the night before. I really got to meet some great people there and network, and I can't wait to do it again. And I hopefully we can continue meeting under better circumstances and actually have like products to sell, and just consumers and business owners should be networking and working together. I think we'll get farther. It was really great to see grassroots action in action. It was just people that had their lives have become better through Kratom. So I walked around a little bit, and outside, it was such a nice day. It was like 60 degrees. So I got some footage outside. and tried to talk to the delegates, then went back and worked on my 3 minutes, and we weren't sure if it was going to be actually 3 minutes. They're like, oh, it might be a minute and a half. And what I learned is, definitely just go, just show up, and you can say anything. You can. The commissioner was encouraging people to say "me too." He's like, if someone else said something, because there was 40 of us there, all to testify, and when it started. So my biggest takeaway is to be flexible. I went there, I learned what to do. I was so nervous, and what not to do. So next time it's gonna go a lot smoother. What I noticed is you really have to be flexible, because what I was going off of was Kerr's statements in the Maryland Reader, I believe it was. I'll put the link down below. That they are sticking with their bill, and then the dude, Nicholson, his only witness that runs a rehab facility that I think Kerr is getting funding for a high school rehab, which is probably a good thing. But I think there's some type of conflict of interest there. Which he did not show up, but that he was saying, I don't know if it's actually recovery, and questions recovery. So I was going off of that, and so that's what I really based my whole paper on. And what I figured was try to tell a story and come up with a analogy that would work. And I went off the Jack Henningfield analogy of taking away someone's life preserver because it's not CDC approved. And I said it's worse because now we got the life preserver, and then now we're circling back around with a recovery boat. We're picking everybody up, and it's like the FDA and the state smashing into us, capsizing our recovery ship. But as soon as I started reading, I regretted it before I started, and I talked to a couple nice women there that were not there for Kratom, but there for other stuff. The day went so long. I got there at like 9:30, and we were going on at 1. Mac had a little meeting at noon. I got most of that recorded, but then we didn't get on until like 4:30, something like that. So it was a little tough getting footage. One, everyone was so nervous. I didn't want to shove a camera in people's faces. So I really figured get the majority of the footage afterwards. But it made it tough because I had 2 bags. So trying to like either stow the bag somewhere or and then the tripod, it was just too much shit. So the biggest takeaway I got was I met some really awesome people, heard some great stories, and when I got videos from a bunch of them, got to meet Lisa from the Heroin Action Coalition and Adam from Audie's Botanicals, I believe it is. A couple shop owners. I talked to a guy, Steven, who was 70 years old, hadn't done opiates for 30 years and used Kratom. He goes surfing every day. This is really cool. But yeah, the biggest takeaway I think I got was to be flexible. And because immediately when Kerr started, Kerr said that they're willing to amend for under 21. And a couple of the commissioners had questions. So basically what they're looking for, and what I found out, and I talked to a couple nice women there, that they were there all the time, not for Kratom, but they were there to advocate for children and abused children, stuff like that. So she's like, yeah, what I do, she's like, I have something written out, and then she's like, I put the bullet points at the top. She's like, so if I lose my place. And she's like, yeah, she's like, they don't really want to, she's like, they'd rather you read. And that's when I thought we thought it was going to be reduced from 1.5 minutes, from 3 minutes to 1.5 minutes. So everyone was just like running through their speeches. And what I really learned is to have bullet points. I think that's all I'm going to have. And what I went with, and what I should have went with, I believe, were 2 different things. Because, like, thinking back on it now, going there is like talking to someone who has no idea what Kratom is. And if that's the case, I wouldn't tell them how I used to be on opiates years ago, and then how I used it to come off of Suboxone, I would be talking like what I don't. When I tell somebody new about that, it's like a side story. They want to hear about the science, and I wish that I talked to a bunch of people, and we did talk about what we were going to be saying, but actually like got a bigger group together and kind of compared, because I'm sure there was a few things that people wanted to cover, like the gunshot wound to the chest, that was deemed Kratom related, and all the other crazy deaths, the hanging by ligature and someone jumping off a bridge, and that they're not all caused by Kratom, but they were deemed Kratom related. So it was all kind of mute because he said he was going to be amending the bill to say under 21. So, and it looks like the Senate's already doing the KCPA. So it looks like a win in Maryland. Got to meet some great people, and really hope to either do business or have them on the show. And we can just keep getting together. The biggest thing is to just show up, is what I learned. And people came from Philly. They came from South Jersey. Christopher from Christopher's Organic Botanical, and got to talk to him. He is AKA GMP compliant. So it was really interesting to talk to him about using a co-packer. And Philly Kratom was there. I think a couple people from Pennsylvania. I think someone from Delaware. So if there's anything happening in your area, I think we got to organize and see if people need rides, because it was just powerful. 40 people, I believe was the final count, showed up, and we each get 3 minutes, so everyone goes there. But if we were actually comparing before, because I wanted to mention the deaths that were all debunked, and then what else wasn't mentioned? I had like 18 pages of notes that I'm like, I gotta get all these points in. That the New England Journal of Medicine study that looked at all the deaths caused by Kratom. I think it was 15 deaths. It immediately ruled out 10 of them because definitely had other drugs in their system. And then when looking at it and doing a very particular postmortem blood test, the mass spectrometry with dual dactometry or something like that, that other drugs came up in their system. And like the one so they were all ruled out besides one, that there was no residual blood. And then like the crazy one that Nick Wing reported in Georgia, where there was a half-loaded syringe of hydrocodone. The cops reported on it. It was in the report, but then it didn't show up in the blood test, so the medical examiner didn't put it on and ruled it Kratom toxicity. And how no doctor has been able to identify what the mechanism is that kills you. Kratom toxicity, that's not a mechanism. Opiates, I think Jack Henningfield did mention that opiates causes the suppressed breathing. It was really nice to meet Jack and Mac and have them talk. Yeah, what I really learned is be flexible, because they're going to be asking. I wish that I went like a couple farther, but I still don't know if I would abandon my little speech. I was so nervous doing it, so I don't even know how it came across. So, bullet points. Like, I sat down to Mac, and he had bullet points. And to address it like you're talking to people who have never heard of Kratom. I talk about its safety profile and how the deaths are blamed on something else, and the exact postmortem blood test. There was a guy that talked about how it works, particularly on the G protein, and then Jack Henningfield backed him up when he talked later about how it only activates on particular G proteins, so it acts as a bias instead of a non-bias like buprenorphine is. A bias partial agonist, so that it's barely turning on a light switch. Like full agonist will switch it all on, and this is like barely turning it on, and doesn't have the capacity to go any further. I got to have some great conversations afterwards. So look out for those videos. And yeah, this is all thanks to you guys, the contributor, for sending me there. And I really hope to be doing a lot more stories like this.